Wow, dude. Wow. We watched episode 7 of House of the Dragon here at Fatherly Fandom. So you know what time it is. Hit that intro.
Woo!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. We're two dads who love all things fandom, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and Middle-earth on down to Westeros. We love all things nerdy, and we want to bring all of our insights and fandoms to all of you, our viewers. So if that's your goblet of wine at your son's name day hunting party, then we're here for you, and you should definitely subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on all of our amazing reviews and insights that we bring to all of our favorite fandoms. So thanks again for tuning in. My name is Chris Matthews, and I'm joined, as always, by the Lord of Casterly Rock, or Castle Rock, that is, my buddy, Mr. Matt Parham. How you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about this very interesting episode of House of the Dragon.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it, brother. So we watched episode 7 of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, episode 7, titled Driftmark, directed by Miguel Sapochnik and written by Kevin Lau. And on Rotten Tomatoes, checked it out, it's getting a 95% critic rating right now. And I gotta say, I, for once, agree with that critic rating. I was absolutely blown away with this episode. What about you, buddy?
The polar opposite. This was my least favorite episode.
Holy shit!
Man.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I'll tell you right off the bat, that the main reason is because of all the potential I saw in this episode that just did not land because of some excruciating misfires by the direction and the writing. So we'll get into that, but yeah.
Let's just get into it. One of the things that I really liked about this episode, Matt. So we're gonna duke it out here today because I'm gonna defend this episode. One of the things I really liked about this episode is it brought all these main characters together in a central plot, which was around Lady Lela's funeral there. I like the dynamic that we got there. We saw a Targaryen funeral in the first part of the season. We saw that they die by dragon fire, and of course the Velaryons, they put their dead into the sea, so they go back to the sea. So Velaryons go by the water, and Targaryens by fire.
Right, the little wading pool right there. That
I know. Did you see the other caskets down there too? So there's quite a few bodies built up down there.
That was actually a redeeming quality of this episode for me, is the visual effect for shots like that, because as the was going on, I thought, this stuff kind of does happen in real life, and you must think there's just loads of these caskets right there at the sea floor, and we got to see that.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering, maybe that's like a very ceremonial place where they always do that as well.
Yeah.
I also thought like another potential was they would take them out to sea as well and do it off of one of the many ships that the Velaryons have, because they have one of the biggest fleets there in Westeros. But that's not the case. And we actually had the uncle there, that Velaryon brother. He was given the eulogy and whatnot, and kind of throwing some shade over at Rhaenyra and her kids and everything.
Yeah.
Talking about the thickness of their blood, the Valyrian line, how they shouldn't thin it out. And it's just like, and that's one of the reasons. And if you wondered why Daemon was laughing at his wife's funeral, that was the reason. So he caught the little gist in there.
Yeah.
And started cracking up. So I really did enjoy the whole dynamic between all the houses and the tension that's building up. One of the really cool things I found out behind the scenes of this episode too, Matt, was this was actually the first shooting schedule for all the new actors as well.
Wow.
So everybody really didn't know each other very well. So there's that little bit of awkwardness there between the characters, and it shows throughout their performance. And I think that was a pitch perfect thing to do, and a good episode for them to start on with this funeral. And another thing that I absolutely enjoyed was getting to see Eamon take over Vagar in this episode. There was a lot of fun with that. What'd you think about that, Matt?
If you could actually see it, man, I was so
Oh, it was so dark?
upset. Yeah, it was so dark.
Mm.
So much of this episode took place in what was not in reality ill-lit shots. They do this oftentimes. They do a day for night shot where they film during the day, and then in post-production they make it look as though it's shot during the night. But the problem is you do that too much, and you make these scenes almost inconceivable. You can't see what's happening. And I kept waiting. Oh, it was so excruciating. I'm like, come on, have the moon come out. Give us some shot. You spend all this money on these effects with the dragon and Eamon. I wanted to see that much more clearly. I'm glad that we didn't have to really get a whole lot of detail with the final hookup between Rhaenyra and her uncle, which the script writers continue to force her to say, "Uncle, I need you." Like, do we have to make it any more cringeworthy? She actually called him Uncle all the time.
It's Game of Thrones, so there's going to be some cringe built in to the plot. This is a problem that I heard from other people. I didn't experience this on my television at home. I have a very high definition television. Maybe my brightness and my settings are one of the reasons why it didn't bother me, but I was able to see everything perfectly clearly. But I do know that is a criticism that other people had. And one thing that I can point out, so this, yes, I agree, probably the lighting was an issue with this. And we got to see that in Game of Thrones, too, in the big battle, as well over in Winterfell. You remember that? Like, there were memes about, like, watching the newest episode of Game of Thrones, and it showed, like, a black screen the whole time. And people, like, squinting, trying to figure it out. So it's sad that, they're doing this again. One of the things that I really liked about, you remember the movie Prey that we reviewed, and if you guys haven't check that out in our back catalog, is the way that they lit that show. And they did it with mostly natural light, and they used torches and things. And I think it worked out pretty well for that. And a show like Game of Thrones could really learn a thing or two from that sort of lighting technique. I mean, you have all these different things that can work, that will light them up and look natural, and be able to have the viewers actually be able to watch the show too. So I understand that criticism, Matt. For me, that wasn't a problem. I very like that whole scene with Eamon taking Vagar was pretty awesome. And I know a lot of fans out there are all pro Aemond right now, and they're like, "Oh, this is the guy, we love him and everything." But guys, just wait till next episode. I'm telling you, you might want to hold that reservation of joy for this character. I mean, even in this episode too, right, buddy? Like, we see him beat his girl cousins in the face and almost kill, one of his other cousins, Luke, Jason Luke.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and so, he
was actually
loses an eye.
Terrifying. I think he did a great job.
He was.
It was a stunning performance from a young actor. Really, all the young actors did a great job. And
I gotta say too, like, I love the fact that we got a dragon ride in this. It was exciting and fun, and that is what this show is all like. This is House of the Dragon, and it's time to see some dragons, and I'm glad that we're getting into that. And it really did remind me of How to Train Your Dragon in a way.
It reminded me of that a lot. Yes.
Yeah, and I very much enjoyed seeing a live action version of that. So it was a lot of fun, even though I don't particularly like Aemon the character, just because of what I know about the character and whatnot and the future. But it does, like, he confidently takes this dragon. He didn't have a dragon to begin with, and if you notice in the previous episode, his sister Helena, when Alicent, his mother, was telling him one day he'll have a dragon, Helena was remarking in the background, you'll get a dragon, but you'll have to lose an eye. So that's the one really awesome thing about this episode and the last couple of episodes, is the rewatchability of the show is going up for me. So I find that after the season is over, you might be able to go back and catch so much more from this entire season that you didn't catch the first time around. So really, like, this is one of the reasons I really like this episode, is it makes me want to go back and watch more of the previous episodes from this season. So I very much enjoyed that. I very much enjoyed the dynamic between these boys and the tension that we're seeing with Rhaenyra and Alicent ramping up. And it's just, oh man, and you could see both sides. You see the greens and the blacks starting to form, and this whole thing is going to light off just as soon as Viserys kicks the bucket. This guy, give it up for this guy, though. I mean, he's really sticking it out. And did you catch, Matt, that he when during the funeral, after it was done and they were all conversing together, and Viserys was about to go to bed, and he goes over and looks at Alicent, and he's like, "I'm going to go to sleep, Aemma," and she's like, so he went and slipped up and was talking about the previous wife, his widow,
right?
So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I really did enjoy all those aspects of this show. And also, I gotta say, for Game of Thrones, we're used to just disappointment and tragedy time and time and time again with this stuff. And, the whole thing with Lenore and Carl is Sir Carl Corley, I think. Carl Corey. I can't say his name. But in the books, what happens in there is they just simply state that they got into a quarrel and Carl Corey killed Lenore, and that was it. That's all we knew from the books. And so I was expecting this to happen. I didn't know exactly how they were going to do it, and there was always an illusion that it was going to be Daemon. And of course, we kind of see that, Rhaenyra and Daemon are kind of plotting, and they're like, okay, we need to get married, strengthen up our side of the family and whatnot. And how are we going to do that? And Daemon's like, well, your husband can't be alive for that. And so they come up with this plot, and you see it laid out there, and he's paying off the boyfriend, and then they get in the quarrel, and all of a sudden you see this body sitting there in the fire, and Lord Corlys and Rhaenyra come in and find him, and it's just like, oh man, once again, House of the Dragon, you're just tragedy after tragedy. This guy did not deserve that kind of a fate. And then what do they do right at the end? Like, you see Carl coming out on the boat and everything, and you see him sitting in there in the boat, and all of a sudden you see somebody else run out. And at the time I was like, I have no idea who this is. What is this? And I thought somebody was coming out there to kill him, Matt. I thought like somebody was gonna axe him, because this is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, some tragedy. I didn't see anything good, and all of a sudden, what do we see? He pulls off his hood, and there's Lenore, fully shaven head and everything, and they're going off to Essos and having a great life. Finally, a fucking character in this show gets a happy ending, and I was elated at that point. So, like, whatever else happened in this episode, that in itself really pushed this episode over the edge for me, for how much I enjoyed it, because, oh my God, we get so much dire situations and so much terrible decisions in this, and it can be depressing at times.
Yeah.
So a little bit of hope and a little bit of a nice little moment like that just means the world too. And maybe this is one of the good things about the show, is there's so much depravity, so much darkness. When you get a little bit of light, you appreciate that moment all the more.
A little bit of light would have driven it home, man.
Yes.
I couldn't even tell who that was. You are now revealing that plot point to me. I couldn't see.
I feel like if you turned up the brightness on your television, or if you had a better TV, then
on my high definition TV, I tried it on my computer screen and my phone with the brightness all the way up, and I was like sitting in a darkened room trying to see. I kept rewatching the scene with Aemon and Vhagar. I'm just like, why is this so freaking dark? This is ridiculous.
So, I gotta ask you, buddy. Were you wearing your glasses at the moment?
I was, and I was not the only one who felt that way. Like, man,
So if you guys could actually see the episode, though, I think that you would really like it. So for my rating of this episode, I am going to give this, first time ever for House of the Dragon, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10
Oh
from
my
Chris
gosh,
Matthews
you're
here.
crazy.
So highly recommend this episode. I very much enjoyed it. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I can't agree more.
Oh wait, we get.
What do you think, brother?
Oh, you are absolutely crazy if you think that this was a perfect episode. Oh man, I was so hoping it would be close to perfect, or at least better than last week, the week before that. But we just continue to decline on the writing and the direction. I don't know what's going on. Aside from the lighting, there was several things that I just could not get past. I mean, we had great scenes from the actors in everything coming to a head between Rhaenyra and Alicent and Viserys, and that whole scene was perfect.
Right.
Everybody getting together there and kind of hashing it all out.
Agreed.
Everything out on the table. Really like that. And that made the rest of it all that much more upsetting, because after that moment, we got just rapid fire plot. Let's get everything out as quickly as possible, because it's like an Oscar winner that's trying to get through the speech and the music's playing. We're just going to say everything we can real quick for the minutes are up. It was just, come on. I mean, there was enough plot in that last 5 minutes to cover 2 or 3 episodes, but instead...
Oh, so you thought it was rushed?
Oh,
absolutely. I didn't get that feeling from it.
Yeah, that whole montage, because we get a scene where she's talking about how great her husband is to him. He's saying he wants to be more involved. And then immediately, her and Daemon, which I still feel absolutely no chemistry between the two of them. Doesn't matter that they've switched actresses now. But we get them talking about how to orchestrate his death.
Okay.
And then it happens in front of our eyes. Like, I know that we've seen tactics like this at the end of The Godfather and stuff, which was much better paced, much better directed. But it doesn't serve here, where we have
well, that's Godfather.
Yeah, we have very important character moments for these people that are being put to death, or in the case of the bad lighting, I guess, allowed to escape. It gives no weight to these decisions. It gives no weight to these choices. It gives no gravity to the plot that's happening, the drama. It's just, there's no time to feel anything for these people. And I don't even trust that the characters that we're seeing now will even be alive an episode or 2 from now, because they're just killing them off as quickly as we're introduced to them. It's just ridiculous.
Well, and for me, I would have rated this a lot lower if they would have just killed Lenore, and had that been the end of this. Right. Because like you said, like, she was just talking him up and saying that he had to be by her side and they had to support each other during this. And so that whole thing, it felt off to me, but it was totally redeemed in my eyes when he actually got to go off with Carl Corey, and they got to go to Essos together.
Don't you think it would have been cooler if we would have seen that struggle? Rhaenyra's battling between Daemon, who's very, very aggressive in his approach to everything that gets in his way, and the fact that her husband wants to be a good father. Maybe she's conflicted by her son seeing him as a good father, and she tries to weigh the benefits of him dying versus, what am I going to do? And finally comes up with this escape plot. Just if there was time given to all that, it would have been much more impactful. Yeah. And I think
I just felt like it was an act of mercy, and I think it was an act of love, like for them to do that, because he wasn't happy in that marriage. He wanted to go off on his adventure, and she wanted to give that to him. So that really surprised me. And it's like, that was, for the first time I saw something that Rhaenyra did that wasn't completely selfish and for herself. I mean, she did want to marry her uncle there, and she wants to shore up her house and gain strength while they go to this confrontation with Alicent and the Greens. But at the same time, like, she she wanted what was best for Lenore too. So that's the thing that I really very much appreciated and was surprised about. So like that's why I was just like, oh, thank you for that. Thank you for giving us at least one good thing in this that we can be like, good. Somebody gets to actually have a pretty decent life.
We hope. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future? But because he's the one person that can prove that it was all a fallacy, and if that comes up later in the seasons, that could just rally people to Allison's cause. So I don't know that we've necessarily seen the last of Lenore and Sir Carl, but that's yet to be seen.
Oh, you think we'll see him again?
Yeah, I would think so, but it could be not until next season or something. There's got to be more that happens until we get to the official dance of the dragon.
I just wonder. I wonder what we're going to see with Sea Smoke, his dragon.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all of that is going to be interesting, and that's what I'm saying. This show is definitely interesting. It's got all this potential. There is good story here, but they don't have to tell it this quickly. This is the Cliff Notes version of the story, and I just really think that it's out of sync with what a dramatic show at HBO's caliber could be. And that's what's really making me the most upset about what we've seen so far. So I also...
And I can give you that. I can see that the plot and the story is rushed. It feels like they're getting to the certain area where they need to get to Dance of the Dragons. And they're speeding to that conclusion as much as they can. So I can see that. But for me, like I still very much enjoyed this episode just for the character interactions, the acting, getting to see a little bit of joy in Game of Thrones for once, getting to see something that wasn't expected. I didn't expect that ending. Getting to see a kid enjoy learning how to ride a dragon for the first time on Game of Thrones. So all these little elements that I just very much enjoyed and helped remind me why I liked Game of Thrones so much. Help remind me why I like this show, why I'm invested in this show. And I can agree that it's rushed and we're sprinting towards a finish line here. But there's plenty of story out there in, Fire and Blood to tell. There's all those other stories about Targaryens. And I think that's the idea is each season is going to take a different generation of Targaryens. So they're just showing this clip in time for the Targaryens. And we're going to move on after this point. And as an audience, you got to prepare yourself. Like we've seen, there's another time jump coming, and the actors who are playing the children, they are done with their roles, and there's going to be new actors that are playing the kids in the next episode. They're going to be older. So just prepare yourself for that, Matt, too. So I know you're not a fan of that, but can we get your rating with this episode? I'm sure it's going to be rather high, right?
Not at all. Well, I still had a couple of things to say about the writing.
That's okay.
Go
for it.
Is that, I really didn't like how they wrote, I forget his name, Lord Strong. What is it, Lionel or Loris?
Laris
Strong.
Laris Strong? The only surviving Strong?
Yeah. Really, if you think about it, he's not the only surviving one. There's a couple of boys that...
That's hearsay, Matt. We don't know that for sure. I mean, just look at him. That's another thing I really enjoyed. Aegon's response, like when Viserys was like, "Who is levying this accusation?" And then Aegon's just like, "Come on, it's obvious. Just look at them." I thought that was a great performance.
Yeah.
So, side point. Let's get to what you were talking about there.
I think that from everything that we saw happen with his character last episode, I was expecting more of a snake in the grass type of approach, but they're just making him come out and blatantly say what his intentions are. And I just think for someone that is supposed to be politically scheming, they wouldn't be that blunt. Like he just goes right up to the queen and is like, "Yeah, if you want me to take the kid's eye out, I'll get it done." I mean... It's a little on the nose for how they...
Well, I know from the books that Lara Strong doesn't have as big of a role, so they expanded his role out quite a bit. And I think what they needed to do with that is design a character that was very similar to Littlefinger and some of the antagonists that we saw in Game of Thrones. So they wanted to make him into that character.
Yeah, I
So,
think Little
yeah, I can
had
see
a
why.
lot more
Yeah,
tact, though. I mean, that guy was scheming, and he would say things to manipulate. He would say things that were never completely true, and you just, as an audience, it was so interesting to watch him
yeah,
because you just never knew where his loyalties lie. But with Laris, it's like just all
true,
surface
true.
value, and he's just kind of this little
Mm,
Smeagol type character saying, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and
true.
take a kid's eye out, no problem. Just give me the word."
Yeah, and I think that the whole point of Laris in that scene, and we didn't get a whole bunch of him. We just saw him on the ship there. I mean, he
And
was
staring down the
at
Queen's
the funeral and
party.
everything, just staring down
Yeah,
Allison. So yeah, but we didn't get much from him. And the whole point of him in that scene was to show you that Allison, like when he was like, "Hey, do you want me to get this done for you?" She hesitated. So we're kind of showing that Allison, in a way, is thinking about this stuff, is going to that side of herself, that corrupt side where she would do stuff like this. So she's actually thinking about like, maybe I should. So the whole point of him in that scene was not to showcase Laris, it was to showcase the quality of Allison in that moment. So I think it worked.
as you know, someone that enjoys the writing of these types of shows, and like I said, HBO caliber usually has the scripts very on point, very interesting
Yeah.
to listen to and stuff. And I was surprised that they went as blunt as they did and gave him little to do after everything that we saw last week. So I would have liked
Yeah.
more time, more characterization from him. I'm sure we'll get that in the future because, well, who knows?
We definitely
Somebody
are.
will probably smoke it
Yeah.
next week, but we'll just get what we get in the meantime, I guess. So,
I'd still find so much joy if they do smoke the character of Lara Strong in the
yeah,
next episode. That would be great. And I think a lot of the fan base is on the same page when it
right.
comes to that, especially what he did to Harwin Strong. Like people were going nuts for Harwin Strong. This is like the heartthrob of the
What?
season. And they introduced this
He's
character.
there for
Yeah.
like
Yeah, you didn't know
15
this, Matt?
minutes.
Yeah. I know. Well, during the wedding, Rhaenyra's wedding with Lenore, like he went out there and just kicked ass and saved her during that, and so that bought him a lot of props. With a lot of audience members were like swooning over this guy, and so when they had him in the next episode and they killed him, everybody was upset and so angry at Lara Strong.
Yeah.
So even if we get him smoked in the next episode, I think a lot of people are going to very much enjoy that. Justice for Harwin Strong. I mean, you got to see this guy. He really enjoyed those kids, and he wanted to be a part of their lives and everything. He was a strong male figure, and he wasn't a jerk like we see on Hulk, like with all the boyfriends and males on that show. So he was a decent dude.
We just barely got to know him. We had no idea who this guy really is or what the attraction was there, and any kind of history.
Yeah.
It just...
This is par for the course when it comes to Game of Thrones. So any upstanding, halfway decent person in the show is going to get killed right away. This is Game of Thrones. We know this going in, right?
Any of that uninteresting, good-natured, regular human being stuff will be skipped over with a massive time jump. Like,
okay. So you hear that, writer Kevin Lau? Matt's got some words for you, buddy. So, okay, 4 out of 10 for Matt. And a 10 out of 10 from Chris. Man, this is awesome. We got 2 different perspectives here today on Fatherly Fandom for this episode. Let us know what you think. We're going to have comments open on this episode, so feel free to let us know if you really liked it like I did, or if you're like Matt and you couldn't see a damn thing, and you have all the criticism in the world. Like, this is great. I absolutely love this. All opinions are definitely welcome. And we say this all the time. It's like, I really enjoyed this. Matt didn't. And that's totally fine. We're both really still enjoying the show. So, yeah, those are 2 different opinions you got from 2 different dads here on Fatherly Fandom. we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Matt, I really enjoyed talking to you about this and having a conflicting opinion on it. I love this. I wish we did this more often. I'm not gonna ever fake my opinion on stuff, but it's always fun when we get to kind of disagree and agree to disagree about certain things about these shows. Guys, we'll see you the next time. We're going to be doing Andor, She-Hulk, as well as Rings of Power. Going to watch some spooky stuff soon here. Smile has just come out. If you guys want to, go ahead and check that movie in the movie theaters. Go check it out because we're going to be reviewing it here soon on our show. And if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. I think we're at 32 subscribers right now. We're a small channel. We're the underdog. So if you could really help us out, we'd really like to get to 100 subscribers here. Get the word out so that we can all talk about the fandoms that we love. So how about you do that? How about you tell all your friends about us? And we hope you have a great day. And from our families to yours, adios.